Okay. Yeah, I hear it already. It just might need to come down some, yeah. Ooh, yeah. All right. Oh, yeah, somebody had pushed it all the way up. Yeah. Yeah, somebody had bumped it or something. Which one? Okay, 1 second. Try it now. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our June 6, 2022 Arbor Committee meeting. Tonight we're going to have a work session agenda. We have the agenda listed on the board, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Our Arbor Committee members, just for the audience sake, I'd like to introduce ourselves. I'll start with myself, Jarvis Sims, Interim County Manager.
I'm Stan Edwards, District 1 Commissioner.
Elena Sanders, District 3 Commissioner.
And I am Patrick Jogstetter. I'm the County Attorney.
Thank you all. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right into it, being that we have a long agenda tonight. The first thing is introducing our different particular projects, as well as an update on the Arbor allocation. As far as the update on the Arbor allocation, I'm going to have Brittany White, the Finance Director, kind of go over that for us.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The spreadsheet that Brian has pulled up shows our, this is just focusing on the projects that have officially been board approved. I know there's been projects that have been discussed, but these are projects that have gone through the board approval and have actual agreements in place. So you can see the first disbursement came May 2021. We received $10,852,481. We have not received the second disbursement yet. My understanding from some finance director groups is that pretty much nobody has received the second tranche yet, so we do anticipate to receive that pretty soon, though. The total funding for the ARPA would be $21,704,962 once we do receive that second funding disbursement. The county to date has approved 3 different categories of projects. We have done premium pay, infrastructure, and negative economic impacts. The premium pay was an allocation of $1,950,649. Our infrastructure to date has been broadband, so our payments to date have been $295,850. We have had an approval of $506,127 on that, but the actual payments have been $295. And then for our negative economic impacts, we have had homeowner assistance to Salvation Army. The total allocated there was $700,000, but our payments to date have been $525,000. We have made a payment to Willing Helpers Medical Incorporated in the amount of $672,900. We have pending legal review Viewpoint at $400,000, and then Liberty Middle School, we have made a payment to them of $9,327. And below, in the purple box, the board has approved $1 million per commissioner. So I've kind of put this in a separate little box so we can keep up with a running total. So the commissioner allocations are $5 million. We've done general allocations of $2,650,649. Those amounts are premium pay and then the homeowner assistance from the Salvation Army. So once you total those, you're at $7,650,000. So that leaves a remaining budget of $14,054,312, or $12, excuse me. Are there any questions?
Any members on the committee have any questions? Okay, thank you, Brittany, for your update. Next item, Patrick. Discussion of the application and a review process for nonprofit allocations.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. So on the county's website, there is a link to applications for nonprofits and small businesses seeking ARPA funds. That portal remains open to date, and my recommendation has been and continues to be that we leave that portal open for some period of time until we get applicants sufficient to close the application portal And at that time, we do one of two things. Either we bring those applications before this board to do similar to what we're going to be doing in a minute with respect to the specific allocations, or if by that time we have retained a consultant to review and make recommendations, we turn those over to the consultant to sort of do the legwork and make recommendations to the board. The application materials are fairly bare bones. It basically is, tell us who you are, tell us what you're asking for, and tell us why you're asking for it. If this board, if this panel reviews those applications, I'll be making some requests for the specific information we want to get as the application proceeds along. If the consultant is doing it, I think we would leave it up to the consultant to gather the information that they would need. But what we wanted to do is go ahead and put this out to the public and allow people to start making those initial applications. And I'm sorry to tell you, I don't have any idea how many applications, if any, we've received through this portal. Yeah, but it's there. I just pulled up the website a little while ago. It is on the main page of the Newton County Government website, and it only requires you to scroll down about 3 inches to find it. So that's kind of where it lies, and I think we and the Board of Commissioners will have to make some decisions when the consultant is ready to be brought on board, which Mr. Sims will talk about in a minute.
Thank you, Patrick. Board members, committee meeting members, any questions? Go ahead.
Just to expound on what Patrick was stating, I don't think the application was announced to everybody yet, so they probably not aware of it because Brian just gave us a rough draft of it, so it's not out officially. So I guess we have to decide on a date to officially release it and also put a date on when we will have an ending, a deadline. So we'll have to do that. And also in regards to selecting the individuals that will receive the allocation, depending on when the consultant will be in place. If the consultant is not in place and you're probably going to let us know about the information, in a certain amount of time, I think we as a committee need to go ahead and move forward so the citizens are not waiting an ample amount of time for the allocation. So it just depends on the time frame of getting that consultant in place.
Yes, the application is on the website, but has not been pushed or anything yet. We're waiting on this committee to, now that we're ready to go.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Okay, so next up, discussion of additional projects to be funded. So we have a lot of projects. I think it's just important just to kind of go down the list by district. And we'll start with District 1, and we'll kind of talk about the projects, and then we'll just go all the way till we get to District 5. Can we put that presentation up, Brian?
Yeah, I think it'll be about the third page. Let's see. It'll start on page 2 of the agenda document I sent you.
I don't have a full agenda, I just have, oh, sorry.
I thought I emailed you the full agenda.
Yes. There we go. So we'll go ahead and start with District 1, Commissioner Stan Edwards. He was allocated $1 million. Willing Helping Medical received $200,000. That was approved, board approved. Viewpoint Health, $50,000, also board approved. And broadband, $506,127.53. And my understanding, just late from a few emails recently, that was also approved by the board. So Commissioner Edwards in his district, he has $243,872.47 remaining. District 2, Commissioner Mason, Willing Helper Medical, $150,000 approved. Viewpoint Health, $50,000 approved. Rainbow Community Shelter. I think a representative from Rainbow Community Shelter is here. And if they'd like to come up and kind of talk about their program project for us. Yes.
Good afternoon, committee. I'm sorry about my voice. Somebody in my neighborhood burned them, and we don't know what they burned, and it did this to me yesterday. But I'm the executive director from the Gardner Gethsemane Homeless Shelter, located here in Newton County, going on 22 years. We have served several surrounding counties, but we're no longer, and this community needs to know, we no longer serve Rockdale. We provide services such as they get meals, showers, bedding. We have washers and dryers that they can do their laundry. We provide transportation, appointments to doctors. I'm a SOAR representative for Social Security, where we help them, those that apply for benefits and need assistance, and I am state trained on that. So those are some of the things that we do. Wilson, you want? Yes.
Well, okay, my primary responsibility, again, as a member of the board, excuse me, Winston Williams, I'm on the board of directors. And in addition to what Pastor just mentioned, that the core responsibility of the shelter is, what my task has been would be to capture, recognizing where the residents are at and helping them to get to where it is that they want to go. So the primary focus has been on training and trying to develop them as people so that the situation where they got them to where they are as far as being homeless is not going to be necessarily perpetual. It would be something that they'd be more or less responsible, recognizing what. So my job on the board and pretty much with the shelter has been one of, I want to say, of a strategic planner. I don't know if this is appropriate for me to talk about a little bit about my background, but my background basically is in public service. I'm a retired deputy district chief with the Chicago Fire Department. So my job primarily was in crisis management, which of course some people in homeless situations, they're in a crisis.
Okay, thank you all. I think our member also has some more detailed questions he would like to ask.
So with your permission, I have put together just a handful of questions that I think if I was on the Board of Commissioners, I would want answered. And what we're going to do is ask all of the nonprofits here tonight to answer this list of questions. And we will then provide that information tomorrow to the Board of Commissioners. It's possible that I ask you questions that you're not really able to immediately give me the answer to, and it may be that I'll give you my card and maybe you can send it to me tomorrow or something like that. My first one I think you've already done. I asked you to describe the organization. And I think, unless any of y'all are missing anything on a description of the organization, I think we feel pretty good about that. Do you have a slate of officers and directors? And I'm not going to ask you to name them all now, but if maybe I'll give you my card, maybe you could email me a list of all of them tonight or tomorrow morning or something, and that way we'll have all of the officers and directors. Is that okay?
This time.
All right. Is your organization currently incorporated through the Secretary of State?
Yes, it is.
And what's the full corporate name?
Rainbow Community Center, Inc.
And as far as you know, are you current on all of the annual registration, annual dues, Secretary
Yes.
of State? Do you have a current 501c3 registration with the Internal Revenue Service?
Yes.
Do you have documentation that you can send to me to establish that?
Yes, I brought it with me tonight.
Where do you operate? Where are you? Do you have an office location? Do you have a shelter location? Describe your location for me.
We have a location is located at 7133 Turner Lake Circle, right here off of Turner Lake Road. That's where we are located. The office, the administrative office, is located there also.
So is there a residential facility at 7133?
Yes, we have 3 resident facility. One is down, the city just approved that building go back up as soon as possible. I believe the housing authority is working on that now, just waiting on the bids to come in.
And they're going to build or rebuild a facility there, is that?
No, tornado storm hit it back in 2020, and the building has been down since that time. And we went through the commissioner's zoning through text amendment, went through twice, and we was approved.
The proposal is to provide $300,000 to the Rainbow Community Shelter. What is your plan for using those funds? Will you just put it in your budget, or do you have a specific targeted use? What's your general plan?
It would be used for operational funds.
What are your other sources of funding besides this potential ARPA funding?
Our other funding, I do write local grants for the shelter. We do have individuals from this community, churches, that also, some of them like Snap and Show, General Mills, some of the ones that provide, that we write grants to, but we also have churches and others in this community that provide funding to us.
And my last question is, who generally do you serve? You serve the homeless population in and around Newton County. Is that a fair way to? The people you serve it's the homeless population in and around Newton County. Is that a fair?
Yes, we do. As I stated, we have other counties that we serve. Rockdale, we no longer serve due to they did not work with us and either come to my board and have a discussion about the homelessness. But we still serve Walton, which is about 3%. We serve Morgan, which is about 3%. Jasper County is same in that same range, between 2 and 3%, and Buss County 1%.
Okay. That's all I had. If anybody else has any questions.
I had a question. Are you receiving any funding from those other counties?
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Okay.
I don't have a question, just a statement. I just want to make sure we put on record the others that we had nonprofits that we allocated funds to, that these questions were also asked to them. I just want to make sure.
I'm asking everybody tonight these questions.
So the other nonprofits that we allocated funds to were not asked these detailed
Y'all did
questions.
not give us the opportunity to ask anybody any questions.
I just want to make sure that was on record.
Here's my card, and I wrote on the back the 3 things I need from y'all.
You got it.
Nothing else?
Thank you.
Oh, Sam.
Any other questions?
Oh, one more thing, let me write on the back of this. And I'm going to add this to my list of questions. Thank you, Brittany. Do you know whether or not you are registered, what is it called, Brittany? The SAM?
SAM.gov.
I am. It's amazing you asked that. I spent 4 hours on Friday because the Don number don't work any longer. I spoke with Don, representative, and I start working on Friday. I have a few more steps, and I will be completed with the SAM.com with the SAM.
And what do you need when you report, Brittany? Is it something you can find when you go into SAM?
Yeah, generally we just need to go onto sam.gov, find their listing, and then make a screenshot of it for audit purposes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the Don stopped. They don't no longer do Don any longer because of any other funding that we might, for a state of federal funding, we must get that the SAM.
Only if you're a vendor with the government, you need to be registered with SAMS. Because I'm registered with SAMS because I do business with the government in various businesses, contract, my personal. So that's the only requirement, because I see faces out there like, what is SAMS? So SAMS is a organization, well, not organization, it's a government entity to where you have to be registered with them in order to be a vendor with the government, a contractor. Just want to make sure I put that out there.
So Commissioner, that is generally true, but when Ms. Brittany submits her quarterly reporting to the Treasury Department on ARPA funds, they are requiring her to show that all the recipients of ARPA funding are in fact registered with SAM.gov.
That's
So-
correct.
Right, that she ran across that just a few weeks ago on her most recent funding. So
I'm trying to think if it may be when I printed the report from where I filed the last one, I think it's on there, so I'll look for it. But if not, then we'll have to wait till the portal opens for the next time.
Add to that, in all of our ARPA training and meetings, that was not one of the requirements for nonprofits and small businesses. So that's why I want to make sure that we are not doing something that's not a requirement. It might be something with your documentation asking that question, but it's not a requirement to receive allocation of ARPA dollars.
And we did go back, Commissioner, so you know, we did go back with the medical nonprofit, with Willing Helpers and Viewpoint Health, and get their SAM.gov registration from them. Anything else?
No, that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah. As far as the committee, do we have any questions, concerns, discussions we'd like to do? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. County Manager. Patrick, so would the commissioners have the right to go back and ask each and every one of our allocations for access to their financials or their check registers?
We could ask that if we want to see that. You know, the problem is once you give somebody money, you've given them money, right? If that's something we want to see before we allocate those funds, then we should ask and get those before we vote to allocate those funds.
Okay. Anybody in the District 1 list, I will go back personally and ask for those financials and access to those check registers.
And tell me do you want checkbook? Do you want financial statements? I mean, you know, tell me what it is you're at, and we'll ask them as they come up. If they
I don't necessarily want them, I just want we would like to have access to them.
Okay.
I would. If the board so chooses. I mean, it may not be something the board wants to do.
Yeah, so that's one of those things that, you know, if it's something that's important to us, we should require it before we hand anybody a check. Because look, if you give me a check, you may not ever get me on the phone.
I agree, and this is late to the party, I'm sure. But we require that of all our budgeted allocations, right?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yes.
Or, I mean, not necessarily a check register, but we do require their financials.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Washington Street Community Center, $100,000. Patrick, I'll go ahead and let you ask the questions. How are you all?
Good evening.
Do you want to just talk to us, or do you think if I ask you these questions, we'll get everything from you that you think we want to know?
Okay, I'm not really sure, but I'm trying to follow you guys along here a little
Okay.
bit, okay? Washington Street Community Center has been in existence since and have received its 501c3 determination status since 1996. We've been operating here in the Covington area for many years. I've been their executive director for 20-plus years. We provide year-round after-school programming and summer programming for children, as well as serve the parents and families of those children in our community. We partner with all of the available organizations and other entities within our county to help make this program successful. We have probably seen over my time frame with the center over probably 1,000 kids to go through that center. In fact, I just saw one just yesterday that said, "Hey, Miss B, you remember me?" I didn't, of course, but I told them that I did. But we're busy. We stay busy. Today was the first day of summer camp. I'm still in my camp outfit because I had a date with you guys this evening. But we provide programming that help kids make the connection from school to after school so that they can help. And what we really try to do is to level the playing field for struggling students who are kids who are struggling in school and need some extra assistance and help. We also not only serve, we serve any kid in Newton County who will come to our doors and want to receive that help. However, the program is designed more specifically for those economically and socially disadvantaged youth that we have in our community. We also provide an additional, many additional enrichment opportunities. So we're not just helping with homework, but we're trying to help instill in students a love for learning. We, of course, do STEM activities, STEAM activities, along with any and all other academic activities, but we try to make learning fun. That's really what it is, and it's done by a group of very caring and loving adults who care about their children, and we work with parents who entrust their kids to us year after year after year. But we are very determined about making sure that our parents also have that type of a relationship with us so that we can help them help their children do better in school. For many of our families, they come to us for other additional kinds of help. So we also serve as an information and referral organization so that we can link up families and parents of children in our community that may need additional services, such as some of those that I see listed there on your screen. Basically, bottom line is, we provide year-round programming while school is out. It provides a safe and productive place for kids to be. And it also means that parents can go to work, have with a free sense of knowing that their children are safe and well taken care of. We feed them. They eat a healthy snack. It's nutritious. We're about health and fitness. But there's a number of things that we do as an organization. And right now, our focus is primarily on bringing our kids STEM and STEAM activities so that it helps them prepare for the 21st century, in a nutshell.
So if it's okay, I'm going to ask you the same
Sure.
group of questions I asked before, and some of them you may have already answered for me.
Okay.
I think you've described your organization adequately. If I, again, give you my business card, would you email me a slate of your current officers and directors?
Absolutely.
Are you currently incorporated with the Secretary of State's office?
We are. Not only are we incorporated with the state of Georgia through the Secretary of State's office, but also through the State of Georgia charitable organizations, as well as we just recently applied for our SAMs so that we can try to do business with the state. And so we're looking forward to some really good things happening for us at Washington Street.
What's the full official name of your organization as you've registered with the Secretary of State?
Washington Street Community Center Incorporated.
Are you current with your 501c3 registration?
Absolutely.
And do you have documentation you can provide?
I have it with me tonight. I can
Oh, fantastic.
leave with you.
Okay. Where do you operate?
We operate at 4138 School Street, which is just a couple of blocks beyond where we are here now. However, since Thanksgiving, we can say, we've been displaced. We're sort of in between our home. So we've been operating for this half of the school year out of the Turner Lake Recreation Center, And for the summer camp, we are housed out of Porterdale Elementary School for 3 weeks.
Okay. What are your plans for the ARPA funds proposed? It is 100,000. What are the plans for the funds proposed to be granted to you?
Specifically, we are in serious need of transportation. We can do a lot of things, but we're limited in what we can do and confined to just within our own operational facility, but we need transportation. We have a bus that's probably about 20 years old, is me, that's no longer working, but kids will get on it and ride, but it has just completely stopped. But we could certainly use a couple of vans as well as an SUV. We plan to spend our money on capital improvements and purchase transportation for the center.
Other than these ARPA funds, what are your other source of funding?
Well, first and foremost, my board gives to the organization. Annually, our board members give. They want to be the first to say that they give to this charitable organization. In addition to that, we have several returning grants of rather large amounts. General Mills being one of those funders, Facebook, the Hyde Porter Foundation, and many others, George Power.
We also have a contract with the school board,
Oh, yeah, we do.
21st century, 21st, what is it?
21st century.
21st century.
Learning Center.
Learning Center.
So we contract with them, and we are the only non-school partner, official partner, delivering the after-school program for the county.
I think you described who you serve, and you told me you have your SAM registration.
I do.
think that's all the questions I have. If anybody else has anything.
Members, do you all have any questions? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. County Manager. Thank you, Ms. B. So what type of disruption did you see when the whole COVID pandemic hit? I mean, what did it do to your programming?
Well,
at Washington?
it really caused us to do some quick thinking and some reorganization and arrangement and alignment with what we normally do. We went completely virtual and delivered a virtual program every day, 5 days a week. And additionally, because snacks and feeding our kids are one of the real basic needs that they have, we did drive-by pick-up snacks every Friday. Not only did we just serve those kids who were enrolled in the program, but we also served the siblings of those children. So they went home with a week's worth of snacks that they could have in that household. So because we know that that was something major that was missing. But they loved it. Kids loved it. We took virtual field trips and had all kind of guests that come and visit and share with the children. I think Commissioner Sanders was one of those people who came to support that program during that time.
Plus, one other important point was, as we shifted to virtual, we discovered there's some inherent problems with the families not being able to participate with virtual by not having internet access, not having computers, and even though we have personal laptops to give to the kids, we found that they were just not able to connect. So we had to come up with some ways to stay in touch with the families.
I got you. So, well, thank you. So, you know, your academic, at least with your academic program, for the most part, you stayed intact,
We stayed
although it be
intact.
virtual.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
It
And
took a minute to transition, but it worked out.
Well, I think it's, you know, a lot of organizations had to adapt, and I haven't heard of one that adapted any better. So,
Thank you.
thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
I guess I had one quick question. So
Sure.
are you going to continue your remote programming?
If it becomes necessary and we need to segue back to that virtual platform, then we will. But as we move forward and getting into our new digs, there are going to be a lot of other opportunities for us to connect with lots of other families here in Newton County. So we're depending a lot on broadband, a lot on technology to be able to help us to achieve that.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Newton Trails. Anyone here from Newton Trails? So their request is for $100,000. Anyone on our committee would like to talk about Newton Trails? Commissioner Mason, you want to talk about your allocation from Newton Trails? Okay.
So I'll say this is I did not know much about Newton Trails, but I understand that's the private organization that's installing and kind of operating the walking, biking trail network that's in Henry County, or Newton County. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And I guess the only question I would have is whether these funds are intended to be used for kind of maintenance and operations, or are they intended to be applied toward a capital project, or do we care? I think that would be my thing, and I'll certainly inquire directly as to them for these other things, and hopefully have information tomorrow, and if not, we'll get the information before any allocation is made.
Okay, okay. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So I would like those same answers from Newton Trails that that council has asked the previous two applicants. I know I use the trails, but and the community has grown extremely fond of them. But I know they're desired. But I would like to understand how, you know, money that was originally intended for COVID relief, for lack of a better term, you know, what I want to hear some answers to Patrick's questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So the next one is District 2 Small Business, 501c3, $200,000. District 2 made a update to his list. He also would like to use $100,000 for senior services, and the senior services would go towards capital projects as well, and that would go directly towards county funding.
So the allocations that are going to stay within the county, for instance, the senior service allocation, that's basically going to supplement the budget and then be applied towards the purchase of these
Capital
vehicles,
projects.
the capital. The small business allocations and the 501c3 allocations would be administered the way I described before, either through the consultant or through this committee, depending on how we ultimately decide.
I think for that, because the commissioner is allocating these funds, I don't know, Brian, if you can put on the application where the person can place what district they're in. I think those specifically needs to go to that commissioner, so that commissioner can be a part of their allocation versus having just someone or just us looking at. We can probably look over it, but that commissioner possibly would like to look and see what district, those businesses in that district, they're allocated to, because it's a part of their allocation, not a part of the actual category that we've had funds for nonprofits and small businesses.
Yeah, I might recommend that's a good thing to make the consultant do. To make the consultant provide reporting to you about that. And then there can be some manner in which you pull out the portion that's commissioner allocation as opposed to the portion, if there's any, that the county as a whole puts in.
That's why I was saying, if he could
Yeah.
put on there the district, so people can place what district, and I do think the commissioner definitely needs to be involved in their allocation. I don't think you shouldn't cut that commissioner out of that.
We can add that.
Yeah, if that's the desire of the committee, that's an easy fix, no problem.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, when I allocate money for small business out of my, whatever I've got left, that goes to District 1 small businesses, or it goes to the county as a whole?
If you allocate it for small business for your particular district, it should go to your district.
You
Okay.
can, you can allocate it otherwise if you chose.
Yes, you
If you
can.
said, I want to just, sprinkle it all over the county without regard to the district lines, I don't think there's anything you can do.
Yeah,
Correct.
The reason I ask is I just feel like our small business pool is under-moneyed, underfunded right now. And I was under the impression that we would allocate, as a commissioner, I would allocate money for the small business category, and then the applications would determine, for the most part, who got the money.
I think you could do that. So what commissioners may want to do is, if you intend to just take your allocation and put it into the small business nonprofit pot, allocate it that way. If instead you wish to segregate your allocation separate from the general pot, do it that way. I think either way could be done. Now, I do think it could create some difficulties. What we don't want to do is run into a situation where you've got a business that is qualified and needs the allocation, or a nonprofit that's qualified and needs the allocation, but they're located in this district, and this district doesn't have any money available, but there's a bunch of money in this district. I think that you could run into some inequitable results, but ultimately the board gets to decide what to do, and each commissioner gets to decide where to direct that money, obviously subject to board approval. But I think you could do it either way.
How do we make that a point of discussion for commissioners?
Yeah.
And it hasn't been an issue in other counties, because other counties, each commissioner has their allocation what they use in their district. So it has been done, and I'll definitely check with the CAP, because the CAP County is one of the main ones that done it. So I'll talk to some of those commissioners as well. But I believe that if that commissioner allocated funds for their district, for their small business in their district, because they want to help that area. Yes, we all are Newton County, but the district is what they're actually representing. So if you wanted to put yours in your small businesses in your area, that should be okay. I think that should not even be an issue, but we do have a pot that's for everyone. And what can possibly happen if there's funds left over and that person happens to be in your district and you have funds left over, utilize that from your district.
So we still have the original allocated amount for small business
Yes.
countywide.
I think it's
Correct.
400,000, I think.
So,
That's right.
how much was it again?
I think it's 400,000. I think
Okay.
you're right. I did not bring that with
So
me.
that, the doling out of that money will be done by the application itself, right? And then voted on by the commissioners?
Right. And
Yes.
I think we're going to recommend
Having a
reviewed and vetted by the consultant.
Okay.
yes.
Now, on that application, does it have because I know we were talking about just nonprofits. We didn't speak on the small businesses. Is it breaking down for small businesses and nonprofits as well?
It's both.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, both.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for the record, I think we're underfunded on the small business portion for the countywide portion as well. Just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay. Next, do we have any questions or discussion that's needed for District 2? Okay, let's go ahead and move to District 3. District 3, Willing Helpers, $150,000, we handled that. Viewpoint Health, $50,000. Historical Committee, $130,000. Someone from Historical Committee available to come up and present?
same one we got before we finish? Okay. 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 Yeah, mine's.
Good evening.
Good evening. We passed out copies of the things that we're doing and some of the things that are new that we're doing. So those are self-explanatory. So if y'all have questions, you can just ask us what you need to.
Okay, so. The committee member is going to ask you the same questions that he asked the previous.
So the first question I have is, could you sort of describe your organization? Tell us about the Historic Committee.
Newton County Historical
Come up here.
is an organization that recognizes African Americans within the community and African Americans that are a first. For instance, our first African American sheriff, chairman of the committee, Mr. Marcellus Baines. People such as that, those are called legends because they are the first. The others are called living legends because they've been here for a while. But at some point in time, they did something extraordinary, but they didn't get the recognition. So we go in and recognize those in the process of raising money for our scholarship fund. We give to the students, the graduating students from all 4 high schools.
Is it one student per high school? Is that how y'all award one for each high school?
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, I'm sorry, I didn't mention that we, at one time did block parties for the community. We did the Christmas Rock for the children, gave away tours. Also, we give, raffle off
Yeah.
the TVs for the for the parents. And then we also, give lunches at some point in time. This is what we did a while back. So that's basically what we do.
And our fundraiser was, like she said, Christmas Rock. We would go in and we'd have the children to perform, the adults to perform, and we would give out toys and gifts to the adults also, the free food and everything. So these are some of the things that we've been doing in the county for years.
How long has the Historical Committee been around?
Excuse me?
How long has the Historical Committee existed?
15 years.
Is the Historic Committee incorporated with the Secretary of State?
Yes.
What's the full corporate name?
Newton County Historical Committee on Black Heritage Preservation Corporation.
Could you provide me with a list of all of the officers and directors if I give you my card, email it to me in the morning?
Yes.
Is the Historic Preservation Committee a 501c3 registered organization?
Yes.
And could you provide me with evidence of that registration?
Yes.
And again, I'll give you my email address and send that to you. I haven't seen anything related to it. So. Where do you operate? Where's your base of operations?
At What's your address again?
8150 Carson Trail, Covington, Georgia, 30014. That's where we are now. Before, we were just going, renting out buildings and just having meetings and stuff from house to house or wherever we could find places to meet.
You've given us this list of community activities. I take it this is your plan for the ARPA funds if you're awarded ARPA funds?
Yes, sir.
Right. What are your other sources of revenue other than these ARPA funds?
Just like I was saying, we have like fundraisers during the Christmas and the scholarship gala. We get funds at that time.
That's in February,
Yeah, our Black History Scholarship Gala.
mainly for scholarships.
Mhm.
I wrote these questions, and some of them are tough to answer. Who do you serve? And I'm going to suggest you serve all of Newton County. Is that?
Yes, absolutely.
And so that Ms. White doesn't get mad at me, have you done a sam.gov registration?
No,
If we help you figure that out, was that something y'all be willing to do?
yes.
That's everything on my list.
Okay, thank you. I do have some questions myself, and while I see all great activities here proposed, for me, I'm a numbers person, and I just ask numbers. So you have a lot of activities here proposed, but you don't have budget amount towards the activities, nor do you have the number of people you're serving. So, for example, because for me, you say you're saying feed needy families and provide assistance. Is that for 500? Is that for 50? How are you quantifying the numbers?
Well, it's about 25 to 50 people where we do that. We might take food to the homes, take to the communities. Like I was saying, we do block parties and we just give out food to the neighborhood. That's what we do. And we haven't been able to do that in a while because of the pandemic.
No, but as far as well, in preparations for this meeting, I asked even my finance director to have me a listing of projects that we might be proposing, and I wanted to know exactly how and the numbers. So if I'm asking internally questions, I will also be asking externally as well, which is fair for us to be able to provide to our citizens if they say, what are you going to do with $130,000? Or in our case, when we're preparing a budget, what are we going to do with a $135 million budget? You all want to see how we're supposed to spend the money. I think it's a fair question to ask. And even if you said, hey, we need to come back to you to kind of give you more details,
Yeah.
that would be fair as well. But for
That's what we'll do. We'll come back, we'll get it together for you.
yeah, and
Because we didn't
again,
know
I
we had to
applaud.
do
These
that.
are great activities, and they seem worthy. However, for me, you might need more funding. You might need less funding. You might say for scholarship programs, I don't know how much you're giving, 5,000, 10,000, 1,000. We have no way of knowing. So it's just say, $50 could be a scholarship. So I think for the committee, we should have those details. And maybe I'm asking more because I'm in my seat serving as interim county manager. I look for details. I don't know if that's for the committee, if you all
I don't think that's an issue to ask, but we didn't tell the individuals in the audience they were supposed to bring all that detailed information. There was nothing officially put out to the community to say when we have this ARPA meeting, the actual agenda items that were sent out from Ms. Jackie and a notification was saying we have an ARPA meeting workshop. So it wasn't put out to where people were actually going to present today. Nothing officially was put out. So in my opinion, I think it's unfair for anybody in this audience to have questions or to ask them certain things they were not prepared for or were asked to bring to the meeting.
Okay. And I hear you, Commissioner Sanders. But as far as at the end of the day, when the reports are due from the county, because we're giving the money to the nonprofits, at the end of the day, the county, Newton County, is responsible for providing the reports to the federal government. And if they start asking the county certain questions, then we would need to have that information. Yeah. And sitting in this seat as the interim county manager, you all will be expecting me to be able to answer those questions. So I'm being proactive in trying to get that information on the front end.
And Mr. County Manager, that's why we have an application process, so they could provide all that information for us to review.
Commissioner Edwards, you have a question?
Well, I think it's, we've asked a subset of questions to each applicant. I think it's fair to expect some answers, and if we don't have these answers tonight, then they can certainly come back. But whatever the committee asks is, I believe, appropriate. So, just my opinion.
Just make sure we're asking the same questions to everybody. I just believe in fairness across the board. We're going to ask one organization one question. We ask that to every organization that comes before us. It's about fairness. We are the government, so we want to make sure we're transparent, yes, but we want to make sure that we are being fair to everyone that comes up.
So we'll get that information back to you.
Thank you all so much. Next one is Youth Commissioners Program, 2 years, pending legal review, $50,000 for youth programs. Commissioner Sanders?
A part of this allocation is for youth programs in regards to starting a youth commissioner program here in Newton County. Many counties don't have a youth commissioner program, and what that consists of is combining all of our schools here in Newton County, and we would have representatives from the 9th through the 12th grade, and they will actually be youth commissioners in our county. They will actually shadow us. They will have meetings just like we have. They will look at the laws and regulations, and what better way to hold us accountable by having the next generation hold us accountable. So this youth program, I did not want to ask the county for any funding to start it. I utilized my allocation to pay for it for 2 years, so we can do this. So each youth commissioner will get compensated for every meeting they attend. It's like $50, nothing big. And there will be 4 representatives from each school here in Newton County, each high school from 9th grade, 12th grade, and from the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And so they will have representatives. We can also have people here on the commissioners on the board, also sit on the board as well, parents that are here in Newton County, and our teachers to be on the board as advisors and to actually have them be constructive. So that was one of the things that I wanted to fund in regards to our county, so we can make sure we move forward with the youth commissioner program and we don't have to wait on getting it approved. So if it's already funded for 2 years, hopefully the county after 2 years, since it's being already funded, will take on the expense.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to just say this is a great program. Personally, I do know my daughter served as a youth commissioner in Henry County, so I definitely see the value of this. They were not paid, so that's a good thing for us to be getting, or considering paying the youth here. Board members, you all have questions?
Thank you. So will this pass legal muster with the Department of Revenue? I mean, this is ARPA
Yeah, I mean, you're allowed to fund youth programs. I think this falls within one of the categories.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I think I'll resend it. I sent like a whole complete outline. And the great thing, because a lot of counties already have it in place, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So we could just utilize their verbiage and move forward and just forward over to Patrick to see if it fits Newton County, and we can move forward. So my goal is to start it January 2023. Hopefully we can get that in place. But I believe this will be a great program for our youth, to give our youth something to do, because as we know here in Newton County, our youth are falling by the wayside because we don't have productive projects for them to do.
So this is a question for Brittany. Being that we're going to be issuing $50 stipends to the youth, will they get a 1099?
If they make over $600, then yes, they would. Well, that $600 was as of 2021. Government always likes to change things.
I think I had it set up to where it was like 1 or 2 meetings a month, so they'll get like $100 a month. So they possibly have to do a 1099 because the 12 months in a year, yeah. And the reason why I was putting a stipend, it will convince them or have them want to participate. So if you're giving them, it's only $50, they will show up and be a lot active, like, oh, I'm going to this meeting to be productive, but I also am getting paid to be able to be a part of this program. And if they will feel like a commissioner. So I want to make sure that was something productive. Be producing future commissioners. We never know when we get out this program.
Again, personally for me, I like it. I know the benefit of it. So I'm okay with this one. Okay.
I have no questions.
Okay. The next one. Nonprofits. So this is similar. Do we need to go over this one again? We good? Okay. The next one is 2 counselors inside the Westside Youth Facility for 2 years. Pending legal review, $55,000 each base salary. If salary needs to be increased per market, can be covered by the county. Total $220,000.
For those who have been following, we were approved to have the Westside Youth Facility in Newton County. What did I have wanted to do before even this being built? I visited all the schools in the county, and I heard from the individuals that would be in the facility. And one of the things they mentioned to me, which was so surprising, was that they wanted a counselor in the facility for the middle school and 1 counselor for high school. So if they have any issues, they can actually go to that counselor, which will also help with our school system, and they have an outlet, because we know the suicide rate for our teenagers right now has increased. So if they have an outlet to go be able to talk to someone, it would be great. So inside the Westside Youth Facility, which is going to be constructed, we have a meeting coming up on June 23rd to be able to speak about that. I want to go ahead and fund that for 2 years for 2 counselors at $55,000, so the county would not have to find out where the money is coming from. I want to allocate that out of my funding. So hopefully within 2 years, after paying for the salaries for those 2 counselors, the county would come in and take over the project. And that's under the mental health of the ARPA funds.
Okay. So I guess I'll start with my question from my perspective. Salary, how was the salary determined at $55,000? And if we fund these 2 positions, then they would be 2 positions that will be added to the county as far as funding. Where would they be housed as far as the positions, who they would report to, and just all those type of questions. And you mentioned salary, so are we also including benefits that go along with it?
That could be a discussion for us. That was just the amount of money that I wanted to allocate, so I can get with you to find out what would be the most appropriate way, or the board to find out. That was just what I wanted to allocate, because that salary might need to be increased. We don't know. So I'm open to that factor. They would fall up under the county, and the Westside Youth Facility would probably be under Parks and Rec, so I'm not sure if they report to our director, would be the immediate supervisor, and then under you. So that will all have to be worked out with you and legal to find out how we can actually, and HR, to find out how we can actually make sure that's going through smoothly.
Well, as far as bias a little bit for me, the salary, I don't know the salary for counselors. but I do know salaries for firefighters
Mhm.
and a lot of our staff here, and the $55,000 is definitely more than the average salary most of our employees making. So it would be hard for me.
Well, these are counselors, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna have certifications that will actually, for $55,000 is really not that much money during this day and age. So these are counselors who will have to have certain certifications, they're therapists, so we wouldn't just be putting anybody who we just hire off the county to go in and counsel our youth. I would definitely not agree to that. We need somebody who deals with the youth, can handle questions, can handle hard questions, and be able to be non-biased, and also hold the information, and if they need to share it, and if there's any situations, but they can be the first line for our youth that are troubled to be able to speak to them. And we possibly can work with the school board, because they receive some funding too, to add on to it. So this shouldn't all just fall on the county. If we have any teachers in the audience, this shouldn't all fall under the county. We can work with the school board to see if they would put some more funding to it to where it wouldn't cost the county much money. So this is what I just put up for it, but we can have a deeper discussion.
I'm gonna remember tomorrow night, 55,000 is not a lot of money. So when I ask for our raises for all of our employees, that same mindset.
Let me clarify.
Thank you.
For a counselor who probably has a master's degree and certified, that is not money for them in their education. So a counselor would not just have normally they don't regularly just have a bachelor's. They're gonna have a master's degree, they're gonna have certifications and certain things they have to stay updated with the state. So there's a lot of things that they pay for, their professional development. So that's a little bit different from just a county employee. Not saying county employees don't have those backgrounds. I'm not saying that, let me put that on record. But for a counselor, that is not enough money for somebody who's a therapist.
Yeah, and I hear you, but we do have a lot of employees in the county that do have that background and are not making $55,000. Commissioner, you.
Well, Commissioner Sanders kind of hit on my question was why the allocation from Commissioner Sanders' money or ARPA funds, I believe would be money well spent, but a partnership with the school system at some point after the county has supplied the facility, a partnership with the school system who I believe got more ARPA money than we did. And if they have a huge desire, I think there's a big need, believe there's a big need for this type, this programming, then after we provide the facility and the initial funding for personnel, in this 2 years or whatever it may be, that at some point they pick up the tab for the counselors. Just my opinion. Thank you.
I mean, that is a great idea. Or even possibly if they collaborated with us on this salary, that might be an idea. Or partnering with them to see if they have some counselors that might want to work there as far as part-time. I don't know.
That was what I was thinking. Does it make more sense for them to provide the counselor and us to contribute to it?
Well, speaking to the youth, because I go into the school system and talk to them, they would rather somebody that's not associated with Newton County to talk their business. They do not want teachers. They want somebody they feel confident speaking with. So I would kind of we're trying to save our youth. So we want to make sure I heard them and I'm listening. So that's one reason why I said we need to go on the outside versus dealing with that. They don't want to deal with anybody that's in the school system.
And I wonder then, might it make sense to do this through your health department? I mean, my thinking is the West Side Youth Facility, once it's built up and operational, probably won't have very many youth in it until 3:30 or 4 o'clock on a typical weekday, right? And is that going to be enough time to justify 2 full-time on-site counselors? Or would it make better sense if you worked with your health department, they had, and it may be an opportunity to help them fund some counseling services. Maybe you could have someone that early in the day provides general counseling services, in the afternoon provides youth counseling services. Just a thought. You may be able to leverage your money.
We can utilize the scheduling system. I'm praying that we don't have that many issues here in the county. But even if you have those individuals who are on site, they can be there to help the school system to where that child can come to that facility in a safe place. Because they even told me they wanted inside the facility a screaming room, so where they can go to a room and scream. That lets you know that our youth are crying out for help. So even going through our health department, those are still workers that are here in Newton County. So we have to still, look at our youth. We have to listen to them. If they're telling us, we gotta listen.
Okay, and just an observation from me, you said 55,000 for 2 counselor, 110, and then the line says 220,000. 2 years, gotcha. Okay. So I guess this would be one of the items that the board, of all of the items, the board would have to approve. But as far as the committee, any more questions on this one? Yes, we're gonna go to that one. Food voucher for seniors and families in your district, $200, Kroger grocery cards. And the only thing for me was that observation, everybody don't like Kroger. Somebody could like Publix, somebody could like.
I thought of Kroger because they're a little bit more economical and get more for their buck versus Publix. And I like Publix, I do, versus Publix and what's the other grocery store we have? I can't think of the other one. So I thought of Kroger because of economics, and Kroger does give back. So my thought process was that they would do a match for us so we can help more citizens. Because if we're providing that amount of dollar, hopefully Kroger would match it so we can get more citizens those food vouchers. So that was my goal, if it is approved, to reach out to the manager and the corporation of Kroger to match our dollars.
How do you propose determining qualifications? Who would do that?
Well, it's for District 3, and my thought process was that I would get with the county to get all the names for the residents in District 3, and how I did a food drive in District 3. So we can have stations set up to where it's based on alphabetical, and they can come up to those various stations, whether it's A through C or whatever. I have volunteers in the area. They can come up to us and pick up those vouchers, and we can mark off who are the individuals in those specific areas to make sure they live in that district. So I had a plan on how we can distribute it. I know that's a good question. How is they going to be able to do that? But we do have a list of everybody that's here in District 3. So they can come with their ID, just like we do various things, and we can check it out. Or we can also do it, I don't want to put any taxing on any of our county employees. I have individuals in the district that said they would even volunteer if this was put in place, so.
So does everybody qualify, or will there be an income limit? That's what I'm thinking of.
Now, that's on the board. We can set that, but how will we know their income level?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
will you, is it something, I mean, we're talking 500 families at 200 a pop.
Mhm.
Or is it something that we need to flow through something like the Salvation Army or some other group so they can sort of vet them for some kind of level of need? Or can I show up if I live in District 2 and, here's my driver's license, I live in District 2, give me free money? I mean, I think that's what I would be looking for.
Well, it's allocated for District 3.
District 3, that's right.
District 3. So I don't want to put any stress on Levi because I see him in the audience. I don't know if he would do that. But it can go through that. I don't have a problem with that going through.
Okay, so that'll be up for discussion, right?
Talking in the mic, I apologize, everybody. The county manager was asking, was Kroger the only grocery store in the county? In my district, I just have Kroger. In Publix is in District 2.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you could, I mean, we could buy cards, I mean, we don't have to buy from everybody. We would buy cards from vendor, whoever the grocer is. Hopefully the grocer would give us, 2 for 1 or something.
Yeah, make a
You know, maybe
match.
they won't, maybe they will, but that would be a great thing if they could. We're not obligated to buy from everybody, because we would be buying something from the grocers. So. But it may be it might make sense not to vote on which grocery it is. It might make better sense to say, we're gonna allocate $100,000 to this purpose and direct you and your staff to go out and see what opportunities are out there and bring those back to the board. That might make better sense. We don't know who's offering what program.
I guess for me, I'm thinking about if we do that in the procurement process.
Well, what we're doing is soliciting donations more than we're buying. I mean, our procurement process would be bids. Everybody put in a bid to provide us a $200 gift card. Well, that's $200, right? I mean, everybody's going to charge you the exact same amount for that unless we make known to them, hey, we're looking for donations. So, I mean, there may be a way to, I need to talk. I'm getting the evil eye. This isn't a straight up procurement. There is something different, which is kind of why I'm thinking, going through some third party. And I don't mean to drop it on the Salvation Army either, but he looks willing.
Looks calm, like he'll take the task.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, next is District 4, Commissioner Henderson. His first Willing Helpers Medical, $22,900. That was taken care of. Viewpoint Health, $200,000. That was taken care of. The next one is a food pantry. Commissioner Henderson, if you are here, you would like to talk about your projects, proposed projects?
Yeah, yes, I can. Would you like to ask me the question first? If I need to ask the question.
Let me ask this question. This first allocation, $150,000 for food pantry, food boxes at the community pantry
Absolutely.
housed at the Nelson Heights Community Center.
Yes.
We would make the contribution to the Nelson Heights Community Center. They would then use that money for the food pantry, right?
Well, yes, it would be two functions. First, you would get another accessory building, excuse me, and place it beside the accessory building that we have now with non-perishable and stock it. And as the people would come in who are hungry or need a box of food, we have volunteers there who would give them boxes of food so they could take home. And just a little bit, the reason why I came up with that was because the First Baptist Church in Covington, every day you see a long line from the First Baptist Church all the way up here in Covington, where people were getting boxes of food, but they only could get the boxes of food for, guess what, maybe once a month. And there still was a need for people to get food. And so we wanted to make sure that was for the people who had insecurities could get a meal. And not only could they get a meal, non-perishable, but they also could get a hot meal because we do have be able to serve hot food in Nelson Heights Community Center because we received our license. And so they could get a hot meal and they could get a box of food to take home with them. Now, he could be anybody because I couldn't turn in nobody who might need a meal. My heart wouldn't let me do that. So this was how that $150,000 would be spent, and we would ask for, go out and get a bid for accessory building to have those non-perishable placed in it up until it would run out. And we would prepare meals for the people, hot meals, that would be for people who didn't have food to eat and needed a hot meal, and for the children in after school tour program. And then if we come back up with the little school that we have inside that we was going pretty good with up until the COVID. My son had put together until the COVID came, and we stayed in virtually because the kids didn't know where to go up until we just ran out of money.
So, Mr. Henderson, are you here for Nelson Heights Community Center, or is there someone else?
Well,
Because I want to ask the same questions that I've asked of the other groups.
This is what it was. First of all, I came here to be nosy, to see
Sure.
what was going on.
Fair enough, I got you.
And my son knows running, and he didn't get no kind of, Anthony Henderson, no kind of notification so that he could come and speak on behalf of itself. But since I was the one who had those author funds placed, for the committee to look at, then naturally I was going to address them as well.
Why don't we do this? I will email your son, if you'll give me his email address, and email him these questions and ask him to respond. How about that? I'd rather
That'd
it
be fine.
come.
Hey, that'd be fine.
Yeah, I'd rather it come from him than
That'd
you.
be
I think
fine.
that's clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then also, just for documentation for the committee, we have an updated list from Commissioner Henderson regarding his proposed projects.
Correct.
So I want us to make sure I have a copy. I don't know if everybody have a copy of the revised list.
Yeah. Could we go through those two as well?
We will.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So just for documentation, for the updated list, it says Nelson Heights Community Center, $100,000 for the expansion of the center to create a classroom, $150,000 to provide food boxes, Viewpoint, $200,000, Hazel Brand, $25,000 for a playground, African American Historical Community, $110,000, Willing Helpers Clinic, $22,900, and the recreation activities for children, $300,000, senior services, fans for seniors, $50,000, miscellaneous, $42,100.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead. I mean, ask
Yeah,
the
so
question.
I'm going to recommend that I will email your son those questions about Nelson Heights.
Yes.
Right.
Now, that's concerning the food bank. Now, the other question concerning the $300,000 for recreation, that is for kids to play. That wouldn't kind of be with Nelson Heights.
That's
There
what I
would
was
be a
gonna
rec commission, because see, it's just as Commissioner Sanders said just a few minutes ago, she said the kids need something to do, somewhere to go. And that $300,000 will give any kid in Newton County who want to play rec sport with Newton County could go and fill an application and be able to play, And so, and we looked at the underserved areas, I guess in Newton County, but once again, I mentioned the projects, I mentioned Jamestown, I mentioned in Covington, I mentioned Spring Hill. And so the kids could go and make application and play in our recs, but we wouldn't turn down nobody, because there's a lot of kids, and especially girls. We have a high pregnancy rate here in Newton County that has not even been addressed. But so this will give them an opportunity to give them something to do that would be somewhat free. The only thing the parent would have to say is that they would provide them transportation to it. And then if they couldn't afford the uniforms, whatever, then we'll get with some nonprofit other organization to help them get what they need. And we're gonna get those kids from their homes and playing sports, the boys and girls.
So I guess what we're asking, which I like this idea, so are you saying $300,000 from your ARPA funding will go directly towards the recreation and parks
To the
facility?
recreation.
And they would have it for funding for
Absolutely.
all kids?
Yes, we just want to make sure everybody know about it, so that they'll be able to apply for it and hopefully
And
receive it.
We'll create an application process.
Yes.
and-
Yes.
Just,
Let your rec
just one
department just
caveat
do
to it.
Yes.
We want to make sure that they know that it comes from District 402 as well. And I want my fellow commissioners, Stan and Commissioner Sanders, maybe come in and let's do a whole lot of them. But, I don't know exactly how far 300,000 will go. I don't know how many kids out there really that need it. But from what I know from my phone, it's a lot of them want it. And it's hard to say no to a parent, whether it's a parent, was it your family or whoever, don't live with you, to tell them no, not the kid couldn't play, and to keep them out of trouble.
Okay, I like that idea.
Okay.
And the next one, senior services, $50,000 fans for seniors.
Yes, that's another thing. It would be distributed through the senior services.
So that would go towards their budget?
Right.
Okay.
The problem that I have is that there's a lot of seniors out there, you know, little stuff like a fan, help, you know, make sure their home be cool for those who have maybe air conditioning, probably like mine, need a little more air in the house. But some of them who may not even have air conditioner would be able to get a fan in order to help cool their homes. So it's not like, you know, we're going to be go out and get a whole truckload of fans. That's going to be available for the citizens in Newton County.
And the last one for understanding from me, Hazelbrand Road, is that a county park?
No, it's a young lady on Hazelbrand Road who invited me out to her daycare / facility. It's O'Kelly's facilities. And she gave me a tour of the building. I think she had recently purchased it. And she had nothing for the kids to play on. And that place was full of kids, young kids. And she asked for help. She said, I need some help on purchasing equipment for these kids to play outside. And I couldn't say no. I wouldn't say no. And so I kept my word, and I made sure that I put it on my author funds for hopefully that to be done for this young lady.
Do you know if she operates a nonprofit or a for-profit daycare center?
I believe it's nonprofit, but I'm not sure.
Can you put me in touch with her and we'll?
Yes, we will.
Yeah, get me her information. We'll reach out to
Yes,
her.
we will. Yes.
And if it's a nonprofit, then we can fund it through the nonprofit.
Right,
If
yes,
it's a
that's-
for-profit, that might be something we could look at doing for small business assistance if she can show whatever whatever qualifications we come up with. So it's something that we can make
Absolutely,
work. but
yeah.
I'm a little hesitant on offering an if assume it's a business owner
Yes,
that much money.
yes.
That's problematic.
Yes, Patrick, that's the reason why we have a committee here, to look at those projects that we're offering up to see if it would fit with the author funding. Now, if I could, I want to just speak on the Afro-American preservation, the $110,000 that I want to give. And this is for that. For so long here in Newton County, I mean, if you wanted to know what history we had here in Newton County, you couldn't find nobody who knowed anything. In fact, my own personal history, black history, went no further than my grandfather. Other than my grandfather, I don't know who was here, this and this, but this is a way from my way of thinking that we can help not only Afro-American, maybe anybody else who may want to get with Miss Terry and talk in terms of preserving the history, could talk about Coach Wright and what he meant to this community when he was the basketball coach there. Talk about people like Mr. Fleming Pitts, you know, what he has did over the years to help in our community, and not forget him, you know. Talk about people like Forrest Sawyer, you know, who marched from Arbor cousin up here, and what we believe and we know have brought in civil rights here, you know, make things. So we don't want to forget those people. We don't want to forget them. We want them to be remembered for future generations so that they may be able to know, so well, who was Forrest Sawyer? Who was Fleming Pitts? You can put it up, and I'm hoping that we have the technology that it will state to them exactly what he or she did in their life that made our lives and making their lives just a little bit better here in Newton County. So we can't just bypass it. It's history. And I'm just in with this. We were talking about the plantation, and my good friend, Commissioner Cowan, he'll get at me for talking about him sometime. But we were talking, and he said, well, you know, the plantation with a little bit of history in it that he may want to preserve. And I said, well, and I understood that. So that's why I want to preserve not only some of the history, I like the good history, some of the history, preserved because it is history, and for future generations, and so that my grandchildren will know the trailblazers that came on, like Commissioner Sanders, who came on and did great things here in Newton County. And, you know, sometimes, as we all know, you move on at some point, but we don't want to forget them. We don't want to forget Davis Morgan. We don't want to forget, you know, other people who did a lot of great stuff here in this community. And so I don't want to forget them, and a lot of people don't want to forget them because I campaigned on that. And I think we had a pretty good results during the campaign, and I think people want to preserve our history here in Newton County, and they're willing to stand up for it. I'm sorry, I go on a tangent sometimes, but I'm just somewhat very passionate.
Yes, sir, we got.
Any more questions?
I don't have any more. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Could I ask one question, Commissioner Sanders?
We have a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead,
thank
Stan.
you. So I asked Washington Street Community Center about how COVID had impacted their operations, Commissioner. And they mentioned the number of kids they served over the X number of years, but so what did COVID do to you? Did it halt operations?
No, it did not. You know, we came over here and we got those, Miss Jackie gave us those dividers because the kids, the parents, they had to come somewhere and had to have somebody. So we taught Miss Kemp in the stand at the community center. We divided them up and they would go online and look at computers they had and they were doing their classes. They were doing the classes. It was about 10 of them, but what I'm saying is they had somewhere they could go rather than be at home, so they could do their classes. And then we know that some of the others came in, about 10 more came in, so it was about 20. And you really kind of scared because we didn't exactly know about COVID. But we bought computers. We got it from the school system. What the kind that the school system have, you know, like laptop, and we got about 6 of them back there in the computer lab. So they could go online there for the ones that didn't have it. They didn't think it punched in a number. So we didn't stop because they needed us. And I'm glad you said that, Commissioner. He was a friend of mine. I used the community center van because I was so concerned because my sister had died from COVID. And, you know, I was kind of heartbroken. And I wished I would have known that she was waiting on that Johnson & Johnson shot that they stalled on. And during that time, she caught it and she passed. You know, she was like in a wheelchair. But so to make me feel better, I got my shot first. Then I started taking people over to get their shots. That's why I was complaining on the board about we not having nowhere in here to get shots. So I started taking people to get their shots. I think once we opened up, and Mr. Jody, my neighbor, we made sure he got all the shots, and he caught COVID still. He caught it. But the good news was, it made me feel a whole lot better, what they said, if he hadn't took a shot, it probably would have killed him. And so we took people to there. I think we took about 5, and we advertised for more than that. People wanted to go to get their shots who didn't have transportation. So yeah, that's what J.C. Henderson is about. I'm trying to help as many people as I can because I know there's a lot of people in my lifetime who has helped me. And it's just what I do. Anything else, Commissioner?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So we have District 5, Willing Helpers Medical, $150,000. That was approved. Viewpoint, $50,000. That was approved. Court Systems is the remaining amount, which is $800,000. Do we have any projects for courts at this time?
I'm working with the judges to get that put together.
Okay. So that's all of the projects.
Yeah, before we move on, I want to make a recommendation that I'm anticipating that between now and tomorrow, I will not be able to figure out exactly how to make Hazelbrand Road work. It's a relatively small allocation, but I think we might be prepared to recommend we table that one until we can make that. I don't want to do it one way and then have to go back and do it another way. Likewise, I mean, it might be like with the court system. If we don't know for sure, let's give Mr. Cowan the opportunity to know what he's doing before we designate funds, I think. So.
Thank you. So I know several elements of the court system came before us several months back. And my understanding was that we were going to do what we could to listen to what their requests were and maybe fund them in the second allocation. Now, he can certainly spend his money wherever he wants to, I guess, is what we're saying. But I just thought the court system would be addressed at that second allocation like the other government entities that came before us. Was that not the?
That was discussed, yeah. I mean, it would just expedite things, I suppose.
Okay.
Assuming the projects are ready.
And
I
free
don't know.
up money later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 5 is discussion of additional projects to be funded. And we have Salvation Army. We can go ahead and get an update from Salvation Army. Sure, we can get an update from Salvation Army. Come on up.
Hello, committee.
Good evening.
I've enjoyed the last hour and a half very much. A little bit of laughter in here. So just quick updates on where we are at. I'm a numbers guy. I'm just going to present the stats really quickly, and we can just go from there. As of right now, we've distributed a total of $390,000, or $390,252.52. So the issue that we are currently facing is, of that amount, $327,722.43 is between rental and mortgage assistance. So in the original agreement, it was for $400,000 in rent mortgage, $300,000 in utilities, and that is then there is the 15% administrative fee. So obviously, take away the 15% of $400,000, you're at $340,000. So as of right now, well, this is as of last week, really, we're at about $12,000 left in rent mortgage. We've had about 20 applications today alone. As of this moment, anyone who comes into the Salvation Army of Covington that is behind on their rent mortgage, there's ultimately no funds available. So on top of that, we have about $192,000 total in utilities remaining of that initial $300,000 minus the 15%. So my initial request would be, can we move $125,000 from utilities to rent mortgage? That would be my request for the committee, to at least make some space for immediate assistance on the rent mortgage side. I'm obviously open to any other numbers or whatever makes sense to the committee.
I don't see a problem with it,
Yeah, the BOC will have to.
Okay.
I don't have a problem.
yeah.
That's fairly, I mean, if that's what the numbers look at.
Right.
Is there a way to put them?
Yep, and I can send this most updated version to you all also. I can tell you also, is why I'm up here and have one moment to speak. Definitely, I would foresee in the next, even if, once that money is moved, that's going to be gone, probably within 3-4 weeks. We're averaging in total about $50,000 to $100,000 a week in assistance. We're just cranking out. It has been insane. We've helped hundreds of families, prevent eviction. We've kept lights on for hundreds of families, water. It's just been absolutely life-changing. And, there's just no way to see, a single mother with her 3 kids come in and their lights are off, and we're able to help get them back on. It really is, the most amazing thing. So I definitely, would like to put in an application for much more funding to keep this going. I'm thinking something around $1 million in the exact same agreement could make total sense to get us into the next months. I could go through the whole process online, but definitely want to bring that to you guys' attention. I think this is absolutely pivotal for our community, for Newton County in general. And while we have these ARPA funds, I can't imagine anything better in my perspective, but just directly helping our citizens that are most needing. So it's just my 2 cents while I had it.
I have a kind of not a question I demand an answer to, but a question everybody ought to think about. If this need, and it clearly is that much, what are we going to do? What's Newton County going to do after ARPA? I mean, that's, are we are we making that cliff higher for people to fall off of when ARPA ends? I mean, I'm not saying let's don't help people because we can't help them forever. But what are do we need to be thinking about the consequences of this? And I don't know what they are. I'm not in the business that you're in, but that would be something I think somebody ought to think about.
I think the
ahead,
ARPA,
Commissioner.
I'm sorry, I think ARPA opened our eyes to the needs of Newton County. And I said this last year when the census came back, that Newton County is at a 20+% poverty rate. And we have to do something because we are the government. I know we can't help everybody, but I did have a conversation with the mayor today because every city in Newton County received ARPA funds. So we possibly should have gotten with the cities to see if they would at least put something in the pot because we are Newton County. And the city should have bought into this as well, so we wouldn't be utilizing all of our ARPA dollars. But I know they didn't get as much as we receive, of course. But something should have been put into the pot to assist with this. But that is a good question. But I do agree with maybe putting a little bit more into it, if the committee or the board agrees with that, to assist, because that's what the money is there for, is there to help the community. American Rescue Plan Act. So we have to see what we can do, but after that, we just have to come up with a plan on how we're gonna assist our citizens going forward, because that 20% poverty rate is increasing rapidly.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the issues that we see every day, even way before all of the ARPA funding, is sometimes it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on it, and what is the real long-term solution? And that's something that is very challenging and something we deal with every day, because even if we help someone who's $2,000 behind, and that might be an amazing way to get them out of a hole, what happens the following month? You know, that's something that is just a true challenge, and that's going on everywhere, not just here in Newton County. So, yeah, I'm totally open to any ideas or suggestions of the way Salvation Army could help with that, but you know, we just want to make sure the people that are about to be, you know, out on the streets, lights about to be turned off, that we just do the most that we can for them and just go from there. But we're doing our absolute best.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards?
Thank you. So, refresh my memory, when this was originally set up, this was a one-time deal for residents, right?
Yes.
Could it be one time for rent and one time for utilities, or one time for either or?
Yeah, so what we've been doing is one time for rent, one time for utilities. What the actual dollar amounts, we have like soft limits internally, where it's about $2,000 for rent mortgage and about $1,000 per each utility. So, you know, there's a lot of people coming in that owe 4, 5, 6, 7, 20, 40. I've seen 80,000, and you know, obviously we can't write a check for $80,000. The money will be gone in 3 days. But we'd love the opportunity to increase that. But part of why we had those limits internally was for this very reason of we knew exactly how quick this could go. So we would love nothing more than to be able to set that limit at 3, 4, 5,000 to really help people who are more than even just a month behind. But once you start getting into that limit, it goes extremely expeditiously. So, you know, I'm open to any suggestions of what you guys, the committee thinks. So.
What is it, I know you said a million more, which we do have 10 million that's coming in, so I don't have an issue, that has to be the board, I'm only one vote to assist with that, but I do think as a county or working with the Salvation Army, we do need to put some programs in place to assist with money management, or how they can do various things, or find, you know, a lot of people don't know that. That's just, that might be something that's small to us, but a lot of individuals do not know that functionality, or how we can assist them working in their budget, or budgeting, something like that. But I do agree with additional assistance that we can provide, because we do have the funding that's coming in. But of course, that would be on the board. I don't know what the recommendation also is from. If Commissioner Edwards might want to put some input, and then the whole board is being involved in it.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, thank you, Levi. Question regarding other funding options for our residents. DCA, are we suggesting?
So what we normally do at Salvation Army, anyone that comes in owing probably more than 5, 6, 7,000, and they have no way of actually getting that down to where we can assist around that $2,000 range, we send them to the Georgia Rental Assistance Program. The issue with that is that's kind of hit or miss, where there's people who do it, they get help a month later. There's people who put their application in and they don't hear back for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 months. And we've, even at the Salvation Army of Covington, our caseworkers have done that. They've sat there for the 2 hours, did the application with the clients, and the client does not hear back for 6, 7, 8 months. We have clients that's been almost probably a year. So we have no control over that, obviously, but for some of them, they do get, they might get $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, but that's just, once again, just hit or miss and something we don't have control over, and it's definitely not something I would rely on, in my opinion.
And DCA was recently in the news too for not getting back to people in regards to their application. So that's a process that we can't rely on. And the regional director for this area actually contacted me to set up one of the churches to do the applications, but we're still waiting for him to set it up.
Yeah.
And then he contacted me way in January, and it's now June. So that process is not, it's really faulty right now.
Yeah, and that's definitely the biggest difference here. We have people, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Or we have people that come in and a week later, we're able to get checks out. There's no program I've ever seen in my entire life that actually gets the money and funds out this quick as what we're doing up here. And I'm so proud of my team that we have there and how hard they're working. But we're doing our absolute best just to be as quick as we can. And as you can see, we've helped about 400 unique cases at this point. It's just awesome.
Thank you so much, Levi. Thank you, as well as the Salvation Army. Thank you. So number 5, and we're going to probably try to wrap it on up. Number 5, we have discussion of additional projects to be funded, mental health funding, small business assistance, and also I would like the committee to kind of hear from myself as well as Brittany for consideration for some county projects. So we'll go ahead, Commissioner Sanders.
In regards to mental health, we hear about mental health. It's the big thing now in the world. Here in Newton County, we do not have anything in place for mental health. I was honored to be chosen by NACO and our accountability court to go to Tucson, Arizona 2 weeks ago to represent Newton County and to view Pimas County entire behavioral health program. They have a behavioral health hospital, they have staff, they have people on staff with their police departments that go out with the deputies when they have a mental health case. They have individuals who sit with their 911 operators if they have a mental health call. So a lot of commissioners from all over, it was like 13 counties were actually chosen to go shadow Pima County to see their process and how it works. And so we need to put some funding and work with our accountability team and with Robert Fox to see how we can assist with the mental health with our sheriff deputies, because we get a lot of calls, because 70% of your inmates in jail are in jail because of mental health issues. Not because they just decided to do a crime, it's because they have mental health issues. And we don't have the capability here in Newton County to assist with that. Also with suicide cases for our teenagers, which is one reason why I want to put the counselors in the facility. We don't have that functionality here in Newton County, which is why we were chosen to go to Pima County to see what they have, because Newton County does not have that in place. Fulton County and Gwinnett does, but we do not have that in place for our community. So what I was stating as far as mental health is working with our accountability court. Robert Fox, the director, both of us went to Phoenix, Arizona, to work with them to see how we can provide those counselors, provide that in place so we can work with our deputies and our EMS individuals to have those counselors in place for mental health.
Thank you. Members of the committee, you have questions? Okay. B is small business assistance. Maybe we already answered that one. Okay. So C, county projects. Can we list the projects?
I have a list.
Sure. Sure, go ahead, sir. I have that list too,
For the small business, I have spoken to several, not just in my district, but across the county, and the difficulty they had in staying open in a COVID environment was expensive. Money they will not recoup. So I believe, and you've heard me say this twice already, I believe, but I believe our small business needs to be funded a little heavier. Some of those, and there's a restaurant on I believe that's District 5 that closed. They're having issues paying employees with the inflationary wages these days. So, but going back to the COVID impact and some of the measures they had to take, well, you don't have to look very far. Some of them are still in place in terms of the shields. They had to cut some of their seating in half for a long period of time. I'm just talking about restaurants. I'm not talking about hairdressers and barbers and all the small businesses that suffered in the county, in the city and in the county. So I just wanted to put that one last plug in for the small businesses and hope that the commissioners will agree to increase that funding at some point. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sanders.
Just to back you, Commissioner, I completely agree, and that's why that additional funding coming, I don't know if you remember when I first did the worksheet, I actually had money for the second allocation for us to help small businesses. So the commissioners can decide to put that funding there because we are the decision makers on that, yeah.
Okay, so this leads to the proposed capital projects, lost revenue, ARPA funding. I gave them a copy. So, lost revenue for counties is an allowable expense. Several other counties have used ARPA funding to address some needed capital projects or some big ticket capital projects. And we think here is for staff, we would like for consideration to address some of our proposed capital projects. In the current proposed fiscal year 23 budget, last week we got good feedback from the commissioners, and we had to adjust the budget to further reduce our proposed capital projects, and we are asking for consideration to address this list here of the capital projects. I'd like to note that the list that we have before you is not the entire list. We received almost over $18 million worth of capital projects, and we thought that having funding to address some of the capital projects will go a long way for the county. We recognize that the second ARPA funding we have not received yet. We do know, we've researched to see that some other counties have used pretty much all of their ARPA funding internally for county needs. We're only asking for $6 million to address needed capital needs, and you can see the various departments from Animal Service, Developmental Services, DA, EMA, Facilities, our Fire, GIS, Information System, our Public Works, our Recreation. And just note on Recreation, we received about $17 million of proposed projects to address our Parks and Recreation, from ADA compliance to upgrades, much needed because of delayed maintenance. And we're only asking for $1.3 million for our Recreation and Parks. Also, public safety is also a need in our community. We're asking for $1.9 million to address some of the needs that were identified from the sheriff, the tax assessor's office, as well as getting upgrades to the tax assessor's office, as well as tax commissioner, both projects that are needed in order to continue to get our county in the right direction as far as with being progressive and addressing some much needed technological needs that are here in our county. So the list is before you all, and we are here for you all's questions.
I would like to see, like you said, recreation facility upgrades, 1.3 million. I would like to know what the upgrades are, and I would like to know the actual cost. Because I noticed that we do this a lot with budgeting. When it comes to projects, we just throw numbers out, but we don't know if it actually costs that amount. And then what happens is people come back before us asking for additional funding because we were under budget, or they might have been over budget, but we need to make sure that these are the actual numbers. Of course, I would like more time to review it, so I don't want to give too much feedback right now because it is a list we're just seeing for the first time. But I would definitely like to digest this a little bit more because I see a lot of departments need vehicles. So I would like to have an assessment to see what is really needed in those departments in regards to the vehicles. I just want to make sure before we spend rescue dollars on something that we could be utilized for something else. I just want to make sure that we are moving in the right direction.
And that is a fair assessment with the vehicles. The vehicle request actually was much larger, if I may say, and we really drilled down to make sure that the vehicles that were identified on this particular proposed list were vehicles that were not included in another proposal that we have before you all. As far as the recreation facility upgrades, we'll be happy to get you that. We have a assessment regarding our parks and recreation. I'll be happy to provide that for you. Questions? You made also another great observation. We might want to have another meeting as far as with the ARPA funding, instead of not trying to have all this on the next meeting.
Yeah, you know, to track, Commissioner, what you just said about capital projects, I can imagine if I'm being asked to vote on the ARPA allocations without some time to, you know, sit with it and digest it, I think I would be pretty hesitant too. I might recommend we consider proposing, we don't have to do it now, I think maybe everybody get back to their calendars, and maybe we can circulate and propose some dates to request a call meeting to vote on all of this for ARPA at one time. Let's just have a meeting, let's just knock all this out. And it'll also give the potential recipients of ARPA funds time, if there are other questions that arise as we, you know, as I gather the information, something may come up. Something always comes up. So maybe the next day or two, I'll circulate an email with some dates that we're available. Propose one or more of those dates to the rest of the board for called meetings.
Now, I do have a question in regards to the projects we went over with the commissioners. Are any of these in a need right now? Because I don't want to sit on these allocations that are going to nonprofits that may need these funds right now. So what is the deadline that we will have them reviewed and to get back to them and placed on the agenda? Because we want to make sure we're putting some timelines in place, because some of these may need these funds right now to stay afloat, like we did with Willing Helpers and all the other ones. So they may need these funds to stay afloat.
Yeah, I would say the next couple of weeks at the most.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to drag, look, we all want this part done. I mean, that's not, and none of us enjoy, you know, this part. I would say, you know, let's circulate dates, and let's have a meeting that's just ARPA. And let's not mix it with all, I mean, everybody's seen our meetings, and we know how they can go sideways. If it goes sideways, let's at least make sure it goes sideways because of ARPA. So, and I think we may want to spend some time, Brittany and Mr. Sims, or somebody spend some time on sort of the big ticket thing we heard tonight, which is the homeowner, renter, and utility assistance. I mean, that sounds like a big problem that needs to be addressed. And I think they may need some time to sit with that and figure that out.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because Levi said he needed instructions and the commissioners have to vote to move those funds from the utilities to the rent. Can we have a meeting tomorrow? Can that just be placed on the agenda? That's something easy we can quickly vote on tomorrow to see if we can move those funds from the utilities and put it to the mortgage and rental, so he can move forward to assist the individuals.
I think that's reasonable. I can follow up with the chairman, see if we can add that item. Yes. Yes. So last item is an update regarding the consultant. So the RFP was placed out for bid April 25th. The bid closed on May 10th. We had 8 who submitted their applications. We have a committee meeting, we have a committee that has been assigned to score the RFPs. They have a deadline of Wednesday, June 8th, to narrow it down to 2 applicants. And we think we also want to interview those 2 applicants. And we're trying to have interviews scheduled for the latter part of this week or the first part of next week. But our goal is to have a recommendation to the BOC June 21st.
I'm sorry. How many?
We had 8.
Well, it's a minimum of 3.
Minimum of 3.
You can always get more.
So yes, the goal is to have the recommendation to the BOC June 21st. Questions on the consultant?
And I guess, Brian, when will the application, for those who probably sit in the audience, need to submit the application? I know it's online, but when are we gonna announce it?
I can put it on Facebook and
Okay.
have email if I can read.
Okay, all right.
Re-email to you all as well.
Perfect.
Sorry about that.
Okay. So, any more questions, committee? Okay, I want to do this. I see it done all the time, so. Meeting adjourned.